It's Wealth by Design time here on Edge Radio Australia. The man, the myth, the legend, as I said last week, but it's true. I don't think there's any more accurate way of actually talking you up, my friend. It's Jeff Bowman. Great to see you,
Well done,
buddy.
Aaron. It's no myth either.
No myth? No, just the legend. We'll just stay with that. Look,
Fantastic, mate. Thanks for coming. And you've did very good of you to turn up, mate, for our radio show. Phil's and mine.
I do my bit. Exactly right. Exactly. I turn the lights on. I do, press a couple of buttons and away we go.
Everything's ready to go. And
I'm looking forward today. Phil's quite a character. Lucky Phil over here. It's going to be great. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Let's do the introductions, mate. Let's get into it.
Right. As you know, we're the guys from Wealth by Design, and it's all about saving money and making money.
Very true.
And we have a whole collective group of characters in our midst.
Characters.
And in the saving money bit, we've got Phil Aldridge here today from Fuse Technology. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
So Fuse Technology are one of the stars in the cybersecurity IT world.
Massively important people.
Massively important. Yeah. And so I've known Phil for quite a while now. He's come and done some work for us in our office, and we've referred some clients to Phil. And we work collaboratively with business people that love to cover their asses when it comes to security problems. So welcome, Phil. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, guys. Great to be here. I actually think I probably don't save people money. I just stop people losing money.
Well, that is saving money. That's another way of looking at it.
I think so. One way of looking at it, yes.
Good spin.
Yeah. I'm going to leap straight in on this because you're not aware of this, but a couple of hours ago, actually, during another show here at Edge, we were talking about, we actually got a scammer on the phone, right, who had sent a, quick, basically you've got to save your crypto, you've got to protect your crypto, get on board and call this number. So we got them on and just like, obviously we knew what was going on. So we gave them fake names and fake numbers and all sorts of stuff. And away we went. But I just thought, what a great indication of how much you need this cybersecurity. Why, and also you need, with the protection with your crypto and actually insuring your assets and all that. It was just a brilliant example of that. And it certainly wasn't planned, but having you two gents here to talk about this and obviously the whole gamut. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, mate, Phil's the expert. So I just I'm a big fan of the concept, because for so long in the financial planning world that was involved in, as many of our viewers are aware, risk management is a huge thing. Of course, we would use risk as in the insurance context. Life insurance, basically.
Sure.
Your death cover and your income protection cover, etc., which is risk management. But of course, I really got interested in this cybersecurity thing when a good friend of mine, who was the cybersecurity boss of BHP for about 8 years.
Small company.
Yes. A young Gehan. And he was, so BHP, 8 years cybersecurity boss. And the things he was telling us in our office one day about the scamming that goes on out there is frightening. And it was a bit of a crypto discussion, because they could actually see, Phil could relate to this, they could watch the well-known bad guys coming in to try and crack into a server of a known company that they were trying to sell their security systems to.
Right.
And that was sort of artered of BHP, because he set up his own consultancy business with Israeli standard military technology and all the flash gear.
Right.
But it's at every level, right? So we've got password managers at this level for you and I on our laptops, so no one cracks in there, or we just don't. We can keep track of our passwords, and then we got the
someone hacks the password managers.
Oh my God! Well, Phil could talk about that in a short. And then we go, and then you go all the way through to the likes of, or Phil can confirm this, but my understanding is that something like the average cost to the Australian business for ransom. Cybersecurity. We've seen the Medicare private,
for sure.
And so many others in Australia is around. I'm going to have a guess, 200,000 or 300,000 average for the Australian business, and I think America is something like 3 to 4 million. But Phil confirmed that. But it's big numbers. Is that right, Phil?
Wow, thank you for the question. Look, there are so many websites out there that will tell you different figures around how much it costs when you get hacked.
Right.
And they tend to talk about how much you end up paying to get your data unlocked.
Right.
But actually, do you still have a business after you've been hacked? That's probably the major concern.
Yeah.
Because if you have to report it to the authorities, you have to pay the ransomware, you've got to tell all your clients. At the end of the day, if your business is 80% with one client and that client goes, you don't have a business.
That's right.
You're out of business.
Yeah. So generally in Australia, I think they say $30,000 to $40,000 for a small business if they get hacked. And that's probably because the businesses here probably are a lot more solopreneurs, small size business, micro businesses. There's not so many, or not as many, 50, 100, 200 seat firms as there would be in some other major countries.
Okay. Can imagine.
Right. Okay. And a bigger operation in America, no doubt, where it's a bigger cost band of fines and damage and cost.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Phil, your point actually is something that I want to sort of, investigate a little bit further. We talk about the ransom. Okay, you know what? Losing $40,000 hurts a lot, right? Okay, but losing your integrity, losing your reputation, okay, and the old story of goodwill in the business and all of that kind of thing. I invert the commas a little bit when I said goodwill, but that was so much part and inherently what a business was about. Now, if you lose that, you're right, you've lost your business, right? So the financial loss of that not small amount, 40, but that 40,000 could literally become a small amount in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, if you've lost your business, your livelihood, you can't afford to pay the mortgage, whatever it might be, it's a lot more than the 40 grand that you might lose for a ransomware attack.
Agreed.
Ransomware is an interesting one. You don't have to worry about getting a ransomware attack if you have really good backups, for an example. You don't care if your data's locked up.
Okay.
You just get rid of them and you do a restore.
Sure.
And you don't actually have to pay the ransomware. You still have to report it technically, I think. But that's a specific example. These days, though, there's a lot less of that happening than there used to be. There's a lot more now where the threat actors get into your systems, steal your data, and get out without you knowing.
Right.
And that data then just ends up on the dark web.
Okay.
And the first you know about it is where one of your clients calls and goes, why someone just sent me my copy of my driving license that I gave to you 2 years ago?
Ooh.
And you go, and you investigate. And if you can find out, you do realize that you've been hacked. And all this data is on the dark web because that's where the money is for these guys.
Selling sort of false IDs.
Well, not necessarily false IDs, but selling IDs that they've stolen from somebody. Selling data on people. And
creating false accounts with those IDs and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Dodgy.
It's not ideal for sure.
No. Yeah. And it's highly organized too now. This is the thing. This is not an image of a dirty little room in the back of Bombay, right? Okay. These are, office buildings full of people call centers who are organized and this is their entire reason for being. This is their business model.
Yeah. And they genuinely think it's a legitimate business model. Yeah. Scamming people, taking money off other people. However they do it, they believe it to be legitimate. Just that we think it's not legal. Yeah. Now, I always tell people, if you really want to see good customer service in action, get yourself ransomware attacked.
Okay.
Yeah? Now, and the reason I say that is because they will have, when you call them to make payment, they will have every method of payment available to them.
I bet.
They will have every language available for you to talk to them so that you can actually make the payment. Right. It will be a seamless, smooth process. Whether you get your data unlocked or not is a very separate answer. But customer service is amazing.
But their processes are just spot on.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you're right. It's not a little kid somewhere.
No.
And it's also not. Most likely, it's not a state actor. It's not Russia or somebody like that hacking a small business here.
Yeah.
I hear peers of mine talking to their customers saying, someone tried to hack you as a state level threat actor. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Come on. They're not interested in what you've got.
No.
There's two types of data people have. There's the private data, things like driving licenses, Medicare numbers, passports, etc., dates of birth, email addresses, etc. All of that, which is private data. which they want to take and sell on the dark web. Then they have the sort of data that companies like architects would have, which is intellectual property. That's valuable to the company.
Of course.
So that's what they're more likely to lock up and ransomware attack to stop the business from being able to operate.
Yes. Okay.
So that's the two kind of distinctions, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Got a question just popped in there. And thank you, Lisa, for this question. Phil, how did you get into this line of work? It's a good question.
By accident.
It's always accident, right? Why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah.
It's funny how we fall into a profession.
I started at uni doing architecture.
So similar. That's, I can
Building
see the link.
design, architecture. Then I moved to Hong Kong. And I just started working in computers in architectural firms, in civil engineering firms. And then I just realized that, actually a computer's a computer. The only difference is the software that people are using on the computer.
Sure.
So I ended up starting up my own business with another guy. And that was 25 years ago in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Right.
Which
You sold like 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, I sold my part of that business 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
And then 2 years ago, or getting close to 2 years ago, came here to paradise.
To paradise.
Perth Paradise.
Perth Paradise, exactly, yeah. And the first thing I did when I got here was I looked around at the business environment to work out how secure our companies in Perth.
Okay.
So I researched about 400 small businesses.
Sure.
About 3% of them had adequate protection externally.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
3%.
Yeah. And what I'm looking at takes about 1 hour to fix. So it's not a huge, multi tens of thousands of dollars.
It takes
fix.
you 1 hour to fix, right? Me who's struggling looking for the any key. No, it's a very different proposition.
It would take a competent IT guy an hour to fix those issues.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And that makes you look secure externally.
Sure.
And then people go, oh, they look like they know what they're doing. Probably move on to someone that doesn't. The other 97% that don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
So that's probably where you start with all of this.
Okay.
And I thought, crikey, if it's that bad, then my focus is going to be making sure that Perth's secure for small businesses. So that's all I want to do. Just get the word out there.
Fantastic.
Talk more and more about it to as many people as want to listen.
Look, when I leave Edge every single day, right, I go and I turn the alarm on and I lock the doors and make sure that all the different things are covered. Mm-hmm. You've got to do that electronically, right? and you don't. I leave a little bit OCD and I make sure I've locked everything properly. Make sure it's all sweet. Mm. But at the same time, do I have the skills to do the same thing electronically? No, I don't. And that's where obviously you're having somebody who's got the skills, who's got the knowledge, who's got the infrastructure. That's a big deal too.
Yeah.
It's always good to outsource the things that you're weak at.
Absolutely. And I think you make a good point about locking the doors and windows and stuff in the office, because there's I'll get it wrong now, but it's a criminological theory from like the 70s in the US, I think, called broken windows theory, I think it's called. Right. And the idea is around if you walk down a row of houses and there's one house that's got broken window, the grass is not kept very well, the picket white fence is broken, that's the one that someone's going to throw another brick through.
Yes.
Not the pristine ones either side of it.
Okay.
And what wasn't the government, but the state in the US did, is they fixed up all the broken houses and reduced crime in that area.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Okay. So there's a book about it called Broken Windows, Broken Business. It's quite an interesting book. Can't remember who wrote it. Probably should.
Maybe they need to do that in Fremantle at the moment, because it feels like you go down Freo, and I love Freo, but it feels like every third business is closed now, right? I mean, through all sorts of, the last 3 years of economic management, I'll just say that. But you've just got to have a little dig every time you can. But I mean, you're right though, because guess what? Those buildings, the ones that are sort of run down and left like that, the people who are vagrants and so forth hanging, that's where they're hanging out. Yeah. Right. Okay. They're attracted to it. Mm. So if you clean up that problem, you close that door, so to speak. You don't have that other issue.
Well, if you go to Disneyland, there's hundreds of shop fronts in Disneyland, but only a few of them are actual shops. The rest just look like they're shops.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of a fake image, and you can do the same in the CBD. Make businesses look like it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you would improve the look of the city.
Of course.
And IT, cybersecurity is very much looking good, actually. You try and make the effort to look good, and it's not that hard. Yeah,
sure.
They will move on to people that don't look good, generally speaking. Unless there's something that somebody really wants to get into your business and really wants your data, and they're prepared to pay whatever it costs against the value of the data they're getting from you.
Sure.
If it's like that, they won't do it. If it's like that, they will do it. So it's a game for them.
Interesting.
A game for them.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Phil, I've got a question. There's entry points to being scammed by these scammers, right? Websites, email. I know with Medicare, I'm sure it was a staff member's laptop working from home that the scammers got access to the passwords to get in and cause all that grief with Medicare Private. So is there like one's worse than the other? Emails, websites, working from home?
Statistically, love a good stat me. 93% of all attacks come through email.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and
do you mean that Nigerian prince isn't trying to give me money? Really? I'm shocked.
I know, it's outrageous, isn't it? Yeah. He's lying to me.
He's a fibber.
So, and yet everybody still spends so much money on protecting their office with a firewall.
Yeah.
62% of the IT security spend is on the network.
Right.
And 93% of the risk is on email.
Wow.
Yeah. What a mismatch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's kind of why I have a job, I suppose.
Yeah. It works well
so don't fix it, everybody.
That's right.
This is Phil's secret.
On that front, though, with so many people working from home, and there's so many philosophies about this, and apparently now it's sexist to want to be opposed to people working at home. Apparently that's an issue. All of the carry-on that goes with it. I find it, to me, the working from home thing is a real issue from the cybersecurity point of view. It really worries me. I know about a lot of people who work for government departments who are sitting at home on a laptop. Oh, that feels very vulnerable to me.
Yes and no. Depends who owns the laptop.
Okay.
So, and it's pretty easy to do. If it's a company-owned laptop, you can install things from your cloud provider, your Microsoft, your Google, whoever you use, doesn't really matter. You can install stuff on the laptop to link that laptop to your company's accounts.
Sure. Okay.
So that only you can log in from that device to the systems.
Okay.
I'm not going home and logging on to my work stuff from my son's computer, for example.
No.
I have no idea what he's doing on that computer. Don't want to know what he's doing on that computer. Yeah.
Best not to.
We'll leave it there. But the point is, you don't know what's on that machine, and nobody else does. So if that machine's hacked and then you log on into your company email and then you start accessing your company documents, they've got just straight access.
Straight in.
Yeah.
Straight in. Another comment's just come in. I'd love to just bring this one up if I may. And this, Cristiano, I believe, 93% of all attacks come from the email. Wow. This is rich. It is. I mean, it's a great comment. I'm blown away by that. I didn't know it was that high.
I had no idea.
And I'm really glad we brought this up. I've just mentioned...
if you think about it, you've got people sending you dodgy emails with dodgy links.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got people who have hacked your email system who are sitting there on your email system, sending out emails, pretending to be you and intercepting the replies.
It happens.
Yeah. You've got all these different ways that emails can be utilized, if you like. The email system can be utilized. And we are so... You send an email to someone these days, you almost expect an instant reply.
It's like that.
Yeah. That is, 10 years ago, you'd get a reply in a few days.
Yeah.
Now you end up calling someone. Did you get my email?
An hour later.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't replied. Well, I was busy. People expect instant gratification.
They really do.
And that's where the problem comes with email, because you get an email from your boss saying, please do this, or please click on here and authorize this payment, or whatever it is. And I normally say 5 o'clock on a Friday, but we all know that everybody stops work in Perth at 3 on a Friday. So let's say 3 o'clock on a Friday. And you're going, I'm going to miss my bus home. I need to, quickly get it done.
Yeah.
The the scammers know about the urgency.
Of course they do.
That's what they really, really understand. They try and get you to do something when you're least prepared for what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge risk.
It really is. Yeah.
So the trick is to lock down the devices and then stop it. You can train people all you like. They'll still make mistakes. We're all human.
That's right.
So you then install software on the computers, and it's pretty cheap, that stops things from running. So even if your accountant does click on that link,
right,
nothing actually happens.
Okay.
An alert pops up to say, this looks dodgy, report it to your IT company.
Okay. Right.
I've got a question. Thank you for that.
I thought you might.
Thank you for that. And I'm going back on a personal experience I had where I had 2 terabyte of data encrypted by a hacker.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
And that 10 or 12 screens, and on one screen it said, "You are a dickhead. You've just been caught out for having slack security." And the message was correct because I used a VPN to hook up one of the computers because I'd ran out of connections on the existing VPN to put on a contractor down at Margaret River.
Okay.
As a financial partner. And anyway, it was only going to be a temporary thing, but they found it, the loophole, and got in. Wow. And on every single document, 30 years of work, client work, everyone was encrypted. And the message was, pay 25,000 in Bitcoin or it won't be unencrypted. And what I did, I had a great IT guy. He said, look, this is what we do here. This is before I got hacked. He said, we do an encrypted backup each night at 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And you can't encrypt an encrypted file. That was the advice then.
Okay.
And so that when I called the IT guy in, all the staff are just wearing, I'll send them off for coffee because they couldn't do any work. He said, no worries, mate, we'll be up and going in about 2 hours.
Right.
And so all he did is unencrypt the encrypted backup file from 8 o'clock that night.
Sure.
And then bingo, we're up and going, and I could completely ignore the threat. And
brilliant.
It was great. The question I've got for you though, is that still a trick that works, or could those scammers now get into an encrypted file? Has the technology got to a point where my system of protection back then 10 years, 15 years ago, is no longer any good?
Well, you can still encrypt it. You can over-encrypt again.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would cause you a problem. But they've got to get access to the backup.
Yes.
Yeah? Right. Now, this is the trick. So when you're looking at there's various cybersecurity frameworks out there for businesses to operate under, guidelines, if you like, controls to implement. And a lot of them talk about backup. And yes, you're supposed to have a backup, so you can use your Microsoft or your Google to back up all your data, but you're supposed to have another backup somewhere else.
Yep.
And the trick here is to make sure that the password and username for that backup system is different.
Yes.
To the admin username and password for your main system.
Yes.
Because if they get access to this and it's the same username and password,
they've got access to the whole backup at the cloud, wherever it is.
And they can encrypt all of that as well.
Yeah.
So as long as you're set up properly.
Oh, tricky.
It is. Because we try so hard. I mean, how many passwords have we got attached to our names, right? Jeez. I need a good old-fashioned book with them in, That's, But I wouldn't mind asking you.
Which is probably not a bad solution, okay? Because you are much more likely to get hacked online and lose your passwords that way through your Chrome browser or whatever that you saved all your passwords in than having a book sitting in a drawer somewhere.
Yep.
Because you're unlikely for someone to break in and know where that password book is.
That's right.
And steal that and go and do something with it.
You're going to break in, go through all the normal locks. You'd probably get a lock on the top of the filing cabinet, and away you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes old school's the way to go. I wanted to ask about cloud storage. Okay. I'm terrified of it. I hate it.
Only because you're terrified?
I'm terrified because I'm basically, when it comes to IT, I feel a bit, 1975, right? So I feel like I feel vulnerable. I guess that's what it comes down to. And there's so many things that are now so cloud-based. I mean, there's right now a particular software that we use for video editing and that sort of thing, which I used to have on my computer. And one day, it's not on my computer anymore. They took it off, and now it's still subscription. But now I have to access the cloud to actually use the software. Now, that frustrates the hell out of me, because if you get a bad internet connection, it stops me from being able to work. But the other thing that worries me is, okay, my information is now there up in La La Land. Yeah.
So you're now reliant on the security of the cloud provider that you're using. And that's the same with any cloud solution out there at the moment. You are reliant on them. Now, companies like Microsoft are probably one of the world's biggest spenders of money on security on the planet. You can guarantee that their systems are secure. However, you have to make your particular instance secure. Because out of the box, it's not.
Right.
Same with all these providers. You know, you have to go in and enable your multi-factor authentication. You've got to go in, and quite very popular with the banks is you got to enable your biometric thumbprint on logging into your bank account, and you have to do this. They provide you the features and the function, but you're responsible for making it actually happen. And everybody just goes, I'm on Microsoft, I'm on Google, you know, I'm with this company, we're secure. And I go, no, you're not. Has anybody made it secure? Has your IT provider told you they have made it secure? And 99 times out of 100, they haven't.
Now, we've all got this on our phones, right? But obviously on a lot of laptops as well, they're all fingerprint on it, right? To open it and then to access things like that. I mean, is that a genuinely increased way of getting safety?
Yes, except how many fingers you got?
Well,
yeah. So if the biometrics of that finger gets hacked and is leaked, that means you've got one finger less to use. Same with eyes. You know, there's only a certain number that you can use, and then you run out of options. Well, so the biometrics are great, but we'll gradually see more and more of you losing your biometric thumbprints, as it were.
It's going to get to the point the shoes come off and I'll have to go through the toes. Another comment coming in here.
That'd be fun in the bank.
It would be just a little bit. Thanks again, Christiana. I really appreciate these fantastic comments. So you're advising the old password saving method, like writing these down, passwords in a book?
I don't discount it as an idea. You know, I certainly worry about sort of elderly people, for example. Look, I'm right here, mate. Okay,
over 40.
I was looking directly at you. Try not to look at Jeff, actually. Look, they are going to struggle to remember the 230 passwords that the average person has, or whatever stupid number it is. So they're all going to start using simple passwords. The days when the companies required you to use complex passwords is gone. Right. Because they realize that all you do is take password 123 and you go, oh, I know, I'll make it password 124. Yeah. But the way that the algorithms work to hack passwords is they know that that's what people do. That's what so they just try and use those sort of processes.
Those progressions. Well, let's face it, there's a lot of psychology about it. When you're coming up with your passwords, you know, how many questions about your first pet and this, all of that kind of carry.
So I do think for a certain cohort of society, written down password books is a good idea. Okay. I'm not suggesting that you walk down the street with it in your hand necessarily. No. But I think having it locked away, certainly your critical passwords, is probably not a bad idea. Okay. If you're au fait with password managers and you want to use a reputable one, then that's probably a better way to go than just trying to make up your own passwords and store them on a Google spreadsheet, for example. Okay. That's probably not a great idea.
No, that's a bad idea. Yeah. So I use a password manager called Bitwarden, which I'm sure you've heard of. And I think it's the absolute best thing that's ever happened to me, because I just remember one big word phrase, because it's a easy one that's unique
Sure.
for me.
Which one do you use?
Oh, sounds like.
We'll just type it on the bottom of the screen for everybody to
And
get you up to date.
And I thought, this cybersecurity person, a consultant, she said, right, this is what I'm going to do. She went on my laptop and she had this software rounded up every like 230 or 40 of these passwords, and then imported them into Bitwarden, and it is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Is that right?
Yeah, I love it because it's on my phone or on my laptop. And I never have to worry about all those other passwords, but also you can choose your own password, which is like, it'll take 126 years to unencrypt it sort of thing, because it's this long and it's
until quantum computing kicks in, and then it'll take 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, good on you, Phil.
So much to look forward to.
Yeah, it's killjoy. Here I'm getting excited, and quantum computer is going to come and kill it off.
But then everything just steps to the next level.
Yeah.
But on that front, I've actually used that same Bitwarden. Is it?
Bitwarden?
Yeah, Bitwarden.
Yeah.
Okay. But then again, my lack of IT skills, I had my ex-girlfriend set that up. I mean, that's unbelievably dangerous when you really think about
that. Yeah.
Right? You've got to do this yourself.
Rookie mistake.
Oh, rookie mistake. I said, right.
At least change your master password after you've separated from it.
Yeah, probably a very good one. Or for that matter, quite frankly, go and see someone like yourselves.
Go and see Phil.
Just get it done professionally. Much smarter move.
So what's happened there with Jeff is he's installed Bitwarden, and then it's looked at his Chrome browser and his Edge browser and any other browser that he's using, and it's pulled all the saved usernames and passwords that are there.
Yep.
Put them straight into Bitwarden.
Right.
Hopefully deleted them from the Chrome browser and everything else. Yeah.
Yes.
And then that's
I saw her do that.
Your single point of truth then.
Okay.
Now, we all need to understand that most password managers have been hacked at least once in the past. Okay. So that needs to be said. There's no perfect solution here. But it's certainly a better solution than what most people do. Try and remember 30 passwords and make them all the same. So your login to your email is the same as your login to your bank.
And that's just 101 crap. That's bad, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
And then not installing multi-factor authentication. I've had clients who go, I refuse to have it, multi-factor authentication.
Really?
Yeah. It's going to be too hard for me. It's an extra step, I'm too busy to do it. I'm like, well, are you going to be too busy to try and save your company after it's been hacked?
Wow.
No. Yeah. So you've got to use everything that they give you. You've got to use to try and at least make yourself as secure as you can. If you're in business and you're the director of a company, you have a compliance, governance, duty of responsibility, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that your business is secure.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
How many business owners know anything about cybersecurity? Not many.
Not many at all.
Yeah? So they need to make sure that it's being done properly. And I couldn't afford to do it is not an excuse you can use with the authorities these days.
No, of course not. And the other thing is cybersecurity insurance, right? Surely those premiums would be reduced if the insurance company knew you had a super secure system in your company. Is that a fair assumption?
You'd think so.
Okay.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
So years ago, cyber insurance was very easy to get. And what was happening was they realized that they were paying out in claims about $1.10 for every $1 in premiums.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Now, I think it's the underwriters that look at this. They go, that's probably not a good business. It's not a sustainable business model.
No, it's not.
So they started making insurance harder to get.
Okay.
So the insurance forms went from one page, who are you, how much do you want in insurance, to asking you all these questions.
Yep. 4 pages of stuff.
Yeah,
I had to fill it out.
Oh, blood types.
Some companies are 2 pages, some companies are 8 pages.
Right.
And they ask you all these questions that no normal business owner should know the answers to. So there's 2 things that happen. They give it to their IT firm who go, oh, yeah, we don't have any of that in place.
Okay.
What do we do here? Do we tell them it's not done? Or do we just tick to say it's done?
Oh,
So that's risk number 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
big risk.
not saying that all the IT providers do that. Risk number 2 is that the insurance broker fills the form out on behalf of the client because they don't want the risk of losing that commission.
Right, yeah.
In both of these instances, it's not necessarily a fact that your insurance is invalid. If you deliberately lied on the application form, possibly it is.
Non-disclosure.
But if you inaccurately filled it in because you didn't know any better, they'd probably just adjust your risk, and your premiums and stuff like that.
Yep.
But what they do now is they ask you so many questions that they want to make sure that you are secure. Then they will insure you. So it's not really cheap premiums if you're secure. They're not insuring insecure companies.
Yeah. Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
It's good business sense.
Yeah.
I mean, before when they're literally losing 10% on every sale, effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of business model that the government would use. Let's face it, they don't want the competition.
That's what I did.
I thought we weren't going to talk about government.
Again, we're up to an election. I've got to have a little dig. There. Mate, I find this really, really interesting. I really do. And mainly because I'm so vulnerable in this department, we're obviously here, Edge Radio Australia, it's an IT business, this is tech is how we share the message to people. And we've got all of these things in place, and you hope that you've got systems, but they're still, I feel a little vulnerable,
Well, and thank you for sharing your vulnerability with us on the show. I really do appreciate it.
I like to share.
Look, no one really knows. It's such a fast-paced, changing environment.
Yeah,
things are going on all the time.
Of course.
What was right today is wrong tomorrow. The rules and regulations change. There are, as I mentioned earlier, the frameworks out there. One of them is called Essential 8. It's the federal government's framework for cybersecurity for small businesses. Not many people have heard of it. It's been around, been around for about 8 years, and so interesting.
New to me.
But it changes on a regular basis, and they come out with new controls and sub-controls, and then someone has to go in and implement those controls in Microsoft or your Google to make you remain compliant. And that is an ongoing process, takes time, costs money, and I don't expect any business owner to understand anything other than, if I'm compliant with that framework, I should be secure.
Yes.
It's not guaranteed necessarily. If somebody wants to get in, they will get in.
We've come back to the analogy of the building. Okay, we can put all the locks on. The old story of the
move on to the next one.
Yeah, but I mean, a locked door only stops an honest thief, right? So they will find a way. They'll keep. So it's up to you to have as many padlocks on your business, whether they be electronic or physical, as you possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you have, the more secure you should be.
Yeah.
But nothing is impenetrable. There's plenty of companies out there who are paid good money by big firms to try and hack into their environment, try and find the vulnerabilities. It's a good business. Not quite as profitable as the bad actors. But I did want to touch on this whole thing about sort of state actors, and everybody thinks it's the North Koreans, it's the Russians, it's the Chinese. Actually, the majority of global hacks come out of the US.
Really?
Do they?
Yeah.
There you go.
So
not the Ukraine.
Not the Ukraine. No.
Right.
They're very busy doing other things.
Yes.
Shouldn't joke about things like this. But yeah, I think when it comes to commerce, people trying to get what you have, is fair game. However they get it, it's game on, as it were. Thinking that America is a safe haven, we just have good relationships with the States, good relationships with the EU. Yeah. But there's plenty of people in those countries who are prepared to try and get commercial advantage from your business, your intellectual property, etc.
Your best mate will still try and pinch your girlfriend, right? It's a case of...
Sounds like a voice of experience.
Never. No, but where I'm getting at is the fact of the friendliness, right? That sometimes the friendliness is the vulnerability.
Because you think it's going to be okay. So we'll block everybody from Russia from accessing our systems, and you'll leave it open to the States where you have no employees, you never go, and you still allow anyone in the States to try and hack your systems. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
You've got to lock it down to what works for you. If you never leave Australia, lock it down so that only people in Australia can try and hack you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're making your market smaller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can we move to devices? Security around devices.
We can.
So obviously, all these mobile phones are, whether it be Android or an Apple, they're a computer. Are they overlooked when it comes to security and hacking and things compared to desktop computers or laptops?
You mean in personal terms or in business terms?
Both. Just from a pure vulnerability point of view of being hacked, because you do your banking on your phone, you do your banking on your laptop, right?
You do.
You've got all your emails coming through to your phone. Are phones overlooked from a security perspective?
Certainly, historically, iPhones were overlooked. People would say to me, I'm okay, I'm on an iPhone. That's not the case anymore. iPhones, Androids, they're definitely a risk. Not necessarily from the device getting hacked and something bad happening on it, but once someone's got access to what's on your phone, you've got everything on your phone.
Yes.
Your life is on your phone, more so than your desktop and your laptop.
Yes. You've got your photos.
Yeah.
You've got, you're right, you've got everything.
Your life
banking,
is on
phones,
the phone.
Life is on the phone. And so should people have the same spyware, downloadable things? Like, I'm pretty sure I've got Trend Micro on about 7 or 8 devices.
Right.
Because you buy a license for 7 or 8 or 10 at a time. And I make sure they go on my phone and my wife's phone and various other things. But I'm just wondering whether people are as conscious as I am, because it is an area that, ever since I got that big warning of the $25,000 US Bitcoin hack, I'm very shit scared about that.
That's woken you up, mate. There's no question about that. Oh, dear.
So try and do everything right,
So from a corporate perspective, we all understand that companies allow people to bring phones, to the office. Bring your own device, it's called. And companies often allow people to open their email on their phone or access corporate data on their phone. It's very common. But the systems out there, like the Microsofts and the Googles, etc., all allow you to install the same protections on your phone as you install on your laptop and your desktop.
Right.
And you control it centrally, or your IT company controls it centrally from the back end.
Okay.
And that allows you to say, yes, you can bring your Android phone into the office. Yes, you can install your email, your work email on it. But we're not going to allow you to copy data from your email onto your personal Google Drive. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Okay.
And if you lose your phone in a taxi or an Uber, not many taxis around these days, if you lose your phone in an Uber, IT can then remotely wipe the corporate data from that phone.
Okay.
Yeah, not the personal stuff.
Yeah.
You can set it up yourself to do that, but the corporate data is probably, from a business perspective, is the most crucial.
Just wipe it out.
Yeah.
Wipe it out.
Didn't know you could do that. That's great.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Yeah.
So you have to protect the devices. The Essential 8 that I keep banging on about that no one knows about. There's 8 controls, hence the name Essential 8. The first 6 of those are related to devices and the protection of devices, because a bit like the country and the location, if you only allow people to log in from the authorized device, you eliminate every device on the planet that isn't authorized.
It's such a simple thing.
Yeah.
It really is, right?
A bit complicated to implement.
Sure.
Probably not something your average punter is going to be able to do. They need to get...
That's why they need you.
That's right.
Yeah, me or another reputable firm.
Yes. Well, on that front, so, obviously we can get hold of you through Wealth by Design, which is brilliant. I mean, mate, the way that you link people together is just, it's amazing, right?
I know. We're guns at it.
Guns at it. Like, nothing wrong with
Uber connectors.
Look at the self-promotion way they want. But you know what?
Look at the class we've brought in today.
Absolutely, mate. But it's so true. But if I wanted to get in contact with you, obviously I'll go through Jeff, but because we know each other. But for Joe Public, is there?
How do they find you, Phil?
They just call Jeff. Surely everyone's got Jeff's phone number. Jeff knows everyone.
They have,
knows everyone.
but I might be away.
right.
My staff might be asleep.
Okay.
Sorry, Liz. But what's your website?
You can go to the website, which is fusetechnology.com.
Fantastic.
I've actually stopped saying www these days.
Oh.
Just fusetechnology.com.
FUSE. It's on the shirt.
It's on the shirt, not technology. Fusetechnology.com. Or you can email me at phil.aldridge@fusetechnology.com. My name is spelt correctly in the.
It is there. In the little thing at the bottom. That's fantastic.
Well
that's
done.
Right, that's right.
Fantastic.
And obviously, if you fail at all of that, just go to the Edge Radio Australia website. It's edgeradioaustralia.com. Guess what? This thing comes up. It says Wealth by Design. You click. It takes you straight there, and obviously links to yourself, Phil. It's just a very easy way of bringing it all together.
Yeah. So go to IT Security, even on Wealth by Design, and you go straight to Phil.
Yeah.
He's our man.
If anybody wants to reach out and have a conversation about security for their business, I will happily have a conversation. I want to make the world secure.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. What a philanthropist he is.
I know. Yes, and here's your bill.
Hey, never apologise. I mean this. Never apologise for making a living, right? Like, the fact of the matter is, I don't have those skills. So I can bounce through life and be making lots of mistakes and lose all my money or leave my business vulnerable. I think it is incredible. It's not at your expense. It is. You are investing. Okay, that is what it is, an investment.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Phil, I think you still do it. You certainly did it with myself and quite a few other businesses I know. Will come to your office at no charge or obligation.
Okay.
He loves a good coffee, and he'll actually go through and look at the back end areas that link to the weak links in how your emails are connected. That's what he did for me.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he went in there and went, well, I got a 1 out of 3 score on every email address. Right.
Oh, dear.
Poor. And said, look, this is good. You get your IT bloke to fix this, or we'll do it. You know, Phil, thank you. It was really good because, and Phil doesn't sort of make you feel bad if you don't use him just for things like that. If you've already got an entrenched relationship with your own IT person, which I have had for about 10 years, and I had to say, look, I've got to give this guy the opportunity to fix it, which he has done via Phil's help.
Really?
Which is bloody fantastic, man. I really appreciate what you've done there. But at the end of the day, Phil will do that. Okay. And often people go, well, I don't have my own IT people. For Christ's sake, Phil, fix it.
Yeah.
And
look, I'll help a lot of people, and a lot of people get somebody to fix the issues for them, and that is fine for me. I know I'll win enough business during that process. But the worst thing that's happened to me over the last 30 years is the days when I get a phone call from somebody I know, either a friend or a business associate that I met at some point in the past, and they go, "Oh, Phil, just been hacked. Can you come in and help us? We've got to," and they're unhappy. They don't want me to tell them that I'm going to charge them a load of money. They might be losing their business. They can't operate. And it is a nightmare scenario.
It is. Yeah. So how about we avoid the scenario?
Avoid the scenario.
Yeah, let's do the prep, right? In business, you have to do your due diligence in everything you do, right?
Yep.
So guess what? That is part of it. That is something, and it should be. A bit of preparation is going to
risk management. For God's sake,
really very true.
Just manage the risk, and the cybersecurity is a major, major risk.
Agreed. It is time we closed out the show. I'm being given the wind up from the control room over there. We might have been
cheap seat.
The cheap seat. You know what? We need to invest in some blinds so we can just close it on, and away they disappear. It's been a pleasure, guys. Always is.
Thank you, Aaron.
Really enjoyed it. And,
thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Aaron.
Forget about the coffee. Let's go have a beer.
Yep.
Everybody, thank you very much for being part of Wealth by Design here on Edge Radio Australia.